and Warlock.
And I'm really looking forward to see more decks that are out of the meter, or let's say that we haven't seen that much so far, like for example rogues. I mean, last week was the first week we saw the upcoming miracle rogues. More and more people played them, but also to see a potential shaman now is really refreshing.
Well, we saw a lot of Miracle Rogues, and it is, well, maybe a Malygos Rogue. We do not know. Those Miracle and Malygos Rogues they look quite the same. And we have a Sunshine Hunter probably for the Oud here with Tundra Rhinos instead of Kodos. So it's the rather common version at the moment.
Yeah, and we see StrifeCro, we just saw it a moment ago, has an Assassin's Blade in his Miracle Rogue. Or we don't know, is it Malygos or is it Miracle? I would expect it to be Miracle, but not everyone is playing an Assassin's Blade nowadays, because there are more and more ways to get rid of your weapons, of course.
More and more players are playing Harrison Joneses or Oozes again. If you play in the ladder those days, you're most likely going to get oozed or Harrison, and then you have to dance. Now we see here Deadly Shot, Buzzard, or Timberwolf. He kind of needs to take the Deadly Shot to get rid of a concealed. So there could be a concealed auctioneer, and you kind of need that Deadly Shot to get instant rid of it.
But it's a really rough choice for him. Of course, you want to have the Buzzard for the card draw, and you want to have the Timberwolf for a stronger Unleash the Hounds combo. But Unleash the Hounds against a Miracle Rogue, it's always such a thing, because he will most likely, he won't ever have more than 2 minions on the board, only with a Leroy play. But when the Leroy play comes with a Miracle Rogue, he will Leroy, Shadow Step, Leroy, Shadow Step, Leroy, and it's most likely a finisher. So the Timberwolf, less important, I'd say.
The Timberwolf less important, Buzzard always important for the card draw. StrifeCro now could just coin out his Van Cleave if he wants to go for a 4/4 Van Cleave. But as we know, there's a potential of a Deadly Shot from the Oud. That's pretty strong. And he's going to Huffer here now. Or not. That's quite surprising, getting a Leok. A Leok is okay since it's a 2/4 minion, and now it cannot get backstabbed, coin, Van Cleave, for example. Though there would be a possible, well, not even, it could be backstab, coin, deadly poison, Van Cleave. If he had, well, he can still do it. So that would be a 1, 2, 3. That would be an 8/8 Van Cleave if he wants to do it.
That would be extremely strong, to be honest. But yeah, we already talked about it. The potential of, for example, a Deadly Shot, or also just a Boar in combination with Hunter's Mark would clear it away. And yeah, I think the most likely play will be the Deadly Shot now.
I expect the Deadly Shot incoming. Everything else would extremely surprise me. Even if he has a Boar and Hunter's Mark.
Freezing Trap is also an option.
Freezing Trap is also an option. The advantage by freezing trapping is you can still use your passive, so you could also do 2 more damage. And he's going to keep the Hunter's Mark here, it seems, and the Boar and the Deadly Shot. So Van Cleave was played, well, for nothing by now. He can still play next turn again, so with a Shiv and Van Cleave, there's already a 4/4 Van Cleave once again.
Yeah, and he should know that this is an explosive trap or freezing trap. I think he will most likely use his weapon and just check it, just attack to see if it's explosive or freezing. But if the Oud is only playing 1 trap, it's most likely gonna be a freezing trap. So StrifeCro is going to expect that. Will he just say, okay, I'm gonna play my Loot Hoarder and not attack at all with Van Cleave? That would make the most sense from my point of view.
You could also shift to draw a card, see what he draws first. Still, he really doesn't want to attack with his Van Cleave here. Could be freezing, could be misdirection, whatever it is. If it's a misdirection, you could take 8 damage in the face. That would be that optimum also. The annoying thing here is, well, there's the Boar in the Oud's hand. He can just Boar control, kill the 2/1, and the 8/8 would still get bounced if he attacks the freezing trap, or just kill the 2/1 and play a Deadly Shot. Many plays for the Oud here to get rid of StrifeCro's board. Yeah. I would say StrifeCro has some problems now since there's no Auctioneer in his hand, and if you want to have one thing as a Miracle Rogue, that's an Auctioneer for your exceptional, awesome, and annoying card draw.
Yeah, that's what makes and breaks a Miracle Rogue, obviously. He wants to have the Auctioneer, as you already said, but we also see more and more sprints coming up in those Miracle Rogue decks because you are so dependent on the card draw.
You're so dependent on the card draw, and if you have a sprint and really don't get your Auctioneer, yeah, your Shivs, they draw cards too. Your Acolytes of Pain, if you play him, some people play the Oracle again, so that Murloc that draws you some more cards. Those are all possible cards to get more card draw. And there's a Earthen Ring Farseer actually for StrifeCro, which is extremely useful. He can heal himself up, get a 3/3 minion out. So again, 2 minions on the board, one can attack the face, get bounced, and he can even heal himself again. So he plays some anti-rush Miracle Rogue.
Yeah, and it's really bad for the Ute now because his deadly shot wouldn't necessarily kill off the Van Cleef, and he had the option 2 times in a row to kill him 100%. Didn't go for it, and now it's getting risky because if he uses the Earthen Ring Farseer, because I'm 100% certain StrifeCro knows this is going to be a freezing trap, there's no real way for ZU to play around it. I mean, he could kill shot now, but that might be a waste if it actually kills the Earthen Ring Farseer. He would get another round where StrifeCro couldn't attack, but still not the optimal way for him to play this.
That's correct. It looks rather rough here for the Ute. Maybe risking the deadly shot is a possibility. Buying that round is okay. The problem is his options are deadly shotting, risking it, playing the Savannah High main, and if he goes for the Savannah High main, it's just gonna die. He can go for Buzzard and Carter and see what he gets, but it needs to be, for example, a kill command now. He can kill the right one, but you waste 2 damage you could have dealt to the face, so in total you waste 2 damage of the kill command, and you are not getting those 5 damage off for rampaging the face. Good thing is, Timberwolf and Buzzard on the board if he wants to kill one of those. Oh, he has a shift, so he can kill both easy mode.
Yeah, and that's most likely what StrifeCro is going to do. I mean, there are not that many plays for him, and he would like to go for the Assassin's Blade together with his Deadly Poison and start attacking the Ute immediately, but you can't leave the Buzzard on the board. I mean, the Ute is down to 4 cards, and we know that this is the only... No, he has 2 Buzzard. No, it's the only Buzzard he has left, because with the tracking he used earlier in turn 1, he had the option between Killshot, Buzzard, and Timberwolf, so those are both minions are the last ones in his deck.
And now he cleared the Buzzard, he can kill the Timberwolf. He could also just go for Deadly Poison and attack the face, but you really want to get rid of the Timberwolf. To just don't let Beast on the board to get Houndmasters, to get even another kill command. There's really no reason to leave it alive, because he can kill it easy mode. The most annoying thing is, his Van Cleef is just sitting here now for, yeah, 3 turns, didn't do anything, since there is a freezing trap. He can attack with his Leroy, for example, next turn, but he really wants to get a Fan of Knives first. So he would go for Leroy, attack to the face, get him bounced, and then go on the face with his 8/8.
That's most likely true. And he gets an Unleash the Hounds. I mean, he will most... he could also go for Unleash Hunter's Mark, but as you already mentioned, he wants to wait until he has his own Leroy and go for Leroy Unleash combo.
Leroy Unleash combo is weaker at the moment since Unleash costs 3 and there are no Timberwolves left for the Ute, since Timberwolf 1 got lost in tracking as Buzzard 1 and he lost Buzzard 2 and Timberwolf 2 just a turn ago. Now he might have a 6/5 Savannah High main on the board, but StrifeCro can kill it with Leroy, for example. He can kill it with an Assassin's Blade plus Deadly Poison. So there are some options to actually get rid of what is on the board for the Ute, or he's just going for the face. So if he goes for Assassin's Blade Deadly Poison, as we said before, that's already 5 damage. He would drop down to 21, also Eviscerate, so he could deal 9 damage if he wants now, this turn.
He's 1 damage short of. Well, if he uses prep, he could go for that play. I think he will just like, yeah, use deadly poison at 5 damage, start wrecking the face. Oh, he triggers the freezing. That's surprising.
Well, now it's gone, and he knows next turn I can go for Leroy, Cold Blood, 10 damage, Shadow Step, 16 damage, Preparation, 20 damage, GG with the blade. That's what
he can just go for Leroy, Cold Blood, Shadow Step, Leroy, and then attack with your weapon, and it's 21 damage. He has lethal.
That's already enough. Just counting up, he could absolutely deal enough damage to win the game here.
So
One
it's
thing,
over.
no, there's a trap still. So if StrifeCro does his rotation wrong and plays Leroy before the trap, which is really unlikely, he would kill his own Leroy. At the moment, it's just GG for StrifeCro here, and Theude could die next turn. We counted it up for you. Though he needs to attack now first, bring him down to 16, and then just start Leroy, Cold Blood, 10 damage, Shadow Step, Leroy, 16 damage. And now
he's an explosive, so he knows he just won the game. Yeah, well played by StrifeCro. I think if Theude would have not, like kept his kill shot, if he would have played it different, just immediately get rid of the Van Cleef, could have been a different game.
Could have been a different game. He kept it to, well, get rid of an auctioneer, but we saw it. StrifeCro didn't even need an auctioneer to win the game here. He had 2 shifts, so that's rather a good card draw. He had, for example, a Zulok. If he builds up his rush perfectly, he's just going to kill StrifeCro off easily. There's a possibility of a Ramp Druid with a lot of taunters, so Miracle Rogue is not getting past that. Both decks are pretty strong and pretty good to play here, and I would say 50-50, he picks one of those, and, well, just jump right into the game and see what happens.
We see it's a handlock.
It's a handlock. We saw it before. In week 2, day 2, there were many handlocks actually. They played against Miracle Rogues. And well, the handlock just turn 10, not turn 10, 12 HP, 10 HP. He just placed everything he has on the board, and the Miracle Rogue couldn't get past it. The one annoying thing is turn 4 Twilight Drake, turn 4 Mountain Giant. You need to sap it, but you only have 2 saps. So if there's another Twilight Drake, another Mountain Giant, you're kind of running out of options to get rid of it. And then 10, 12, 14 HP, turn 10, there could be 2 Molten Giants taunt up, you don't have any more saps, and then you're screwed hardcore.
Yeah, and the problem is almost no Miracle Rogue runs a big Game Hunter, the #1 counter against those Giants. So as you already mentioned, the only real possibility are those zaps, but the problem is you don't only have those Twilight Drakes, no, you also have Watchers, as we see right now.
StrifeCro already has a sap in his hand, Shiv and Thelnis, plus his Van Cleef. That's an okay hand. He kind of wants to get some backstabs to draw more cards, maybe Earthen Ring to have a 3/3 minion on the board early, or his Ancient, his Acolyte of Pain. That would all be minions to drop out early and to get rid of a Giant. So at the moment he can only sap a Giant, but then it comes back again. He would need to get double Eviscerate to kill a Giant, or even get his exhaust his Conceal for his Auctioneer if he plays it turn 5. And for Theude, we already see a Mountain Giant in his hand. So as we know, that Mountain Giant will get sapped, but then next turn just come back instantly again.
Yeah, and we see he's getting stronger and stronger. Most likely just gonna, draw a card. That's exactly what I was thinking. And next round he can just drop the Giant.
He doesn't even need to drop the Giant. He can just go for Super Twilight Drake. Has a lot of HP too. And the advantage is, well, it has 9 HP, so 1 more than a Mountain Giant. Not gonna die against double Eviscerate if a double Eviscerate is coming. And the Mountain Giant gets even, well, lower cost if he bounces the Twilight Drake back into hand. So you can play it for 3 next turn instead of for 4.
And taunt it up.
That's just a small advantage, but an advantage.
Yep, most definitely. Now, of course, with Silence on the board, double Eviscerate would kill a Twilight Drake as well, but you wouldn't use double Eviscerate to kill a Twilight Drake. That's just not worth it.
The good thing is he can do Shiv now for 2, and he can sab, so there could be a coin, auctioneer, preparation, sab, if he really wants to do it. The number one thing is, you don't want to use your coin if you don't have an auctioneer out. If he waits a turn, he could also just go auctioneer, coin, preparation, whatever, but he draws more cards. Maybe there's just going to be sap, coin, Van Cleef. He could also go sap, coin, preparation, shift, Van Cleef. And that would be a 10-10 Van Cleef then.
Sap, coin, prep.
+8/+8, 4 cards.
Sick.
That's a possible play, but as we know, TI.Theude has a silence in his hand, and it would extremely hurt if you go for the
Nice.
play and then it gets silenced.
It's going super aggressive. He just used Cold Blood on Salnus.
Why not? You can deal those 5 damage for free, and if your enemy is not willing to invest a Mortal Coil, whoa, that's super annoying. Now his Selnus gets silenced, and you kind of wanted to have those 5 damage to get rid of a giant, for example. Now, well, I don't want to say he's screwed, but he can only go for auctioneer, coin, preparation, shift, like draw a lot of cards, hope he gets a conceal, for example, to draw even more cards upcoming turns. And he's not even going to draw a card from Selnus Death, which is extremely annoying.
Yeah, he's lacking the spell damage. Of course, the Cold Blood is completely gone, and yeah, that was the most valuable owl I've seen in ages.
A backstab for 3 damage with a Selnus, that would have been a 4 damage backstab. Super nice. He trades off the owl, has a 4/4 on the board. Worst case scenario next turn, his 4/4 gets shadow bolted, but as we see, there's no possibility actually of that.
Do you think he could go for double Ancient Watcher and Sun Fury, and his 8/8 wouldn't be taunted, so he could just constantly harass StrifeCro? Well, it's not a harass if it hits you for 8.
It's a possible play to go double Watcher. You always will need to fear the Assassin's Blade Whirlwind, the Assassin's Blade Flurry, I meant. That would deal extremely amount of damage with
6.
deadly poison on it
6 damage with deadly poison.
at the moment. So that would hurt a lot if he had it. Now there's an 8/8 and a 4/9. You're not getting rid of that if you don't like. You can go backstab now on the left one. You can go prepare. There's a Blade Flurry, but we're still waiting for the Assassin's Blade. And he's going to coin. Can drop this another spell like shift on the left one. The good thing is if he shifts now the left one, he can draw 2 cards. But he decides to preparation first to just see more options. He draws 2 cards, and he can actually kill
Nice.
that giant now. He can not only kill that giant, he can all... Well, that's quite good. He can draw more cards. He can even kill the 2/3 in the middle if he really wants to.
I think it's... Oh, wow.
And a Shadow Step for next turn, as I 7'd 2 times if he really wants to. Has an Eviscerate now. Wow, he really wants to have another preparation, so he could go Eviscerate, weapon up, and kill the 4/6. Now he can, well, he can kill the 4/6, or he just kills the 8/3. I would vote for the 8/3 since it's 8 damage. You really don't want to take those. And the Miracle Rogue is getting more and more interesting. We also see a Loot Hoarder, and we saw an Azure Drake. So it's the rather new version where you really try to draw a lot of cards to get to your Leroy, and not the 100% spell-dependent version.
That's most definitely true. And we see that there are still so many taunts, and StrifeCro is already down. He has no Leroy yet, but he already has one of the Shadow Steps. So if he draws Leroy and the Shadow Step with a new combo, that's 18 damage he could pull out on turn 8.
It looks... well, I don't want to say it looks not so good for StrifeCro, since he has 6 8 cards in his hand, another auctioneer for even more card draw. But as we know, DH.StrifeCro is holding his 2 Ancient Watchers, and you kind of need a Deadly Poison on your weapon to do that Mega Blade Flurry you need. There's always the possibility of drawing it. Now he can absolutely kill your auctioneer, which is the #1 thing to do. And he can also kill your Drake with his Power Overwhelming if he wishes to.
I wouldn't expect him to kill the Drake with Power Overwhelming.
Oh, I don't too. Just saying what you could do. Annoying thing here is Twilight Drake with 1 spell damage on the board. So even a normal Blade Flurry
2 damage.
already does 2. Not has a huge impact here. It kills. So if he goes for Weapon Up, Blade Flurry, and Shiv, he could clear the board except the 5/6. Well, that would be a huge amount of damage. Well, and the 2/3 would survive with 1 HP. That would already be a huge amount of damage. He can trade now with a 3/4 if he wants, and he also has 2 SI7 Ages in his hand. So, and still, there is Van Cleef roaming around. That was a good turn for him. He just killed 2 minions, and there is a 5/6 on the board, but that 5/6 cannot attack. If a Shadow Flame is incoming now for DH.StrifeCro, that would be annoying. And there's Leroy now with Power Overwhelming and Hellfire. He could do 15 damage in this turn now, if he wants to. He can also just Hellfire and trade with a Azure Drake to clear the board. And get out his... Yeah, and get out another Twilight Drake, so he could clear the board of enemy's threat. His 5/6 would survive with 3 HP. And he gets out a Twilight Drake with 7 HP. It would turn out... it was only 5. I'm sorry, it was only 6, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because he would have to use Hellfire first.
Correct. And that would be... Yeah, that would be an absolute okay turn. If he wants to go super safe mode, he goes... Well, he trades, still have fires, and then goes for... Nah, that's not the super safe way. So I guess just the play I said, it's the safest way to survive everything.
He just decides to get more Taunters and clear the 3/3 with his Defender of Argus, which makes sense, to be honest.
It hurts just to leave an Azure Drake alive. You're granting your enemy that. So there's Fan of Knives and Blade Flurry. That's 4 damage to everyone. There's a 5/8 that's not going to die, but there's also a sap. So really nice hand now here for DH.StrifeCro. He can deal those 2 damage and draw a card. That turns out to be good. He can sap his enemy and he gets an Eviscerate.
5 damage Eviscerate. That's not enough for the Twilight Drake, though.
But it's enough for Eviscerate Blade Flurry or Eviscerate and
SI7 Agent. That
exactly
makes the most sense, in my opinion.
Though there's some really good draws here, and he could just phase it if he really wants to. So he could kill the red one with his weapon, but he would take 5 damage and drop down to 14. And as we know, Leroy, Power Overwhelming, Hellfire. There is like 13 damage roaming around in the DH.'s hand.
Needs to clear those minions that can actually attack. Because DH.StrifeCro knows as well, a handlock has always this crazy burst potential. He's not... Like, the way you play a handlock is you just throw out taunt minions. And so you stay alive. And then you go for this really big combo of Leroy, Power Overwhelming, Faceless Manipulator, and that's 20 damage burst.
DH.StrifeCro managed to clear the complete board. And DH, well, he can drop a Mountain Giant. He can also drop an Ancient Watcher. There's a Silence in his hand. Not so many cards to drop. And he needs to look out. 9 mana incoming for DH.StrifeCro. And for 9 mana, he just needs a Leroy, Shadow Step Leroy, with Cold Blood. That would be enough damage. But even if he only has Leroy, Shadow Step Leroy, that would be 15 damage. And you're already down to 19. So life tapping brings you even further into the danger zone. That hurts quite a lot. And DH.StrifeCro also has an Auctioneer, Blade Fury, and Sap still in his hand. So he's keeping his card long and good.
Yeah, plays it correctly right now.
Hellfiring turns out to be clearing the board. He drops to 16. Next turn he can play his Mountain Giant for 6. He
He's
says,
out.
well played, since there could be just Leroy, Shadow Stab, whatever. And there's a Conceal now for StrifeCro. So he can Auctioneer, Conceal. He could Auctioneer Van Cleef, Shadow Stab, Van Cleef, Conceal. That would be a 6/6 Van Cleef if he really wants to do it. That's funny.
I think he should go for
That would be-
Auctioneer first.
With even 8/8 Van Cleef.
Yeah, but still, the big game hunt can't be targeted when concealed. But I wouldn't take the risk. I wouldn't use my Shadow Stab like this. Let's be honest.
But you do not have
I mean, he has 7 cards left in his deck. If he goes for Auctioneer, Conceal now, and see what he gets, he can just shuffle through his deck and try to get this Leroy.
you can also, well, he can additionally drop out his Loot Hoarder too, so there's even more card drop potential for the future. Number one annoying thing is if DH.StrifeCro has a Shadow Flame and he has 4 cards in his hand.
SI7 agent on his loot harder to draw a card.
Nah,
That would be so funny.
that would be so funny that I would burst out laughing since I really didn't see that coming. So with Conceal, he has 3 minions on the board, and that's 6, 9, 11. With his Blade, a 12 damage just hovering around the board here. With Blade Flurry, he could deal 14 damage. And there's a Silence incoming for his minion, plus Leroy. Oh, that's 14 damage. That quite hurts. And that's super sad since you felt safe, but with that Chop Deck Owl, he gets the 14 damage he needs to end the game. And DH.StrifeCro closes here for a 1-1. So there's the first best of 3 weeks. 2 good decks here. And, well, when I got my file prepared, we can start.
I think I would actually prefer the Shaman, because those Urshocks are crazy. And you can also get more control in the early and early mid game, especially against those Twilight Drakes that he will drop down for 4/8, 4/9.
And StrifeCro has a really awesome hand.
Wow.
Argent Squire, so he has that 1 drop you want to have. He has a Earthshock and he has an Hex, so he can deal turn 4 Giant Hex, turn 4 Twilight Drake Earthshock, and whatever comes in between like a Selnus, he can kill.
Oh, wow.
Mountain Giant, Siphon, Soul, Earthen Ring, Farseer, and Ancient Watcher. That's quite a strong hand, but there's already a Defensive Argus for StrifeCro, and StrifeCro can pull out a really strong board. Turn 3, turn 4. That looks nice for him.
Most definitely does. Already has a Hex against one of those Giants, and there's one of the Twilight Drakes we were talking about. Do you expect him to drop the Mountain Giants first? Because he knows that there is a potential of an Earthshock going towards your Twilight Drake.
I would expect him actually going for the Mountain Giant first, since, as you said, Earthshocks are such a big threat. But the most annoying thing is StrifeCro is getting out stuff, even if it's only totems. Well, now he goes for the wolves, but only if it's totems. He can just drop a Flame Tongue and attack 2 damage totem, 2 damage totem, 3 damage Argent Squire, and kill a giant or whatever like that too. So there's a lot of killing potential actually in StrifeCro's deck against everything the DH.StrifeCro could pull out.
Yeah, and right now there is the potential of a coin Twilight Drake. I would guess he goes for Earthen Ring Farseer.
Earthen Ring Farseer would be super okay, since it's going to kill a 2/3, and he would need to break the shield of his 1/1 if he really wants to kill it. If there's not a Lightning Bolt or whatever incoming, and there's a Harvest Golem for StrifeCro, that's a rather unusual version. Haven't seen a Harvest Golem in a Shaman for forever.
Let's call it Zoo Shaman.
Let's call it StrifeCro Zoo, but for a Shaman. So, nice deck. And I'm already happy to see a Harvest Golem. I think it's one of the strongest minions still, turn 3.
Yeah.
he can totem up now, or well, for example, Earthshock here. But if you Earthshock, you can only kill one Twilight Drake and not two. And he decides to just go for the phase, ignore the 3/3. That's okay. But if a Shadow Flame, for example, is incoming now, you're kind of screwed.
Almost. Yeah, I expect the Mountain Giant now.
You expect the Mountain Giant?
I think that was one
surprised.
of the reasons why you didn't coin out the Twilight Drake. Of course, it's still the Earthshocks. We talked about it again and again. But he can clear one of the wolves and still have the Mountain Giant. And there is, like, StrifeCro would need to waste a lot of... It's not a waste, but he would need to use a lot to get rid of the Giant. I mean, he has the Hex on the hand, so that's nice. But that's one of the two hexes you want to have for the Giants and also for the Ancient Watchers, because those Ancient Watchers, you don't really want to Earthshock them, you know, to silence, because then they will hit you.
The advantage for a Shaman always is you can just totem, 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 totem. You also have your Lightning Storms. That's a rather good thing. If he goes Ancient Watcher, taunts and bows up, you just wait for your Lightning Storm, go spell damage, Lightning Storm, almost vaporize two Watchers. Like if you get +2 spell damage in one turn with Totem or Salnus and Azure Drake, you can actually deal 5 damage to the Watchers. Now, I would expect him to drop his Silence since, well, he can just drop Silence, trade his 1/1 with the 3/1 and be happy with what he did here. He gets board control, and as soon as he draws a Flame Tongue Totem, he can exactly do what we said. He can just run everything in. So 4 damage Wolf, 2 damage Totem, 3 damage Totem, and that Giant dies.
That's true. Yeah, will we see another Giant coming out?
The good thing is he can life tap Giant for 3 and then still play his Soulfire if he wants to, or just keep everything and turn 6 go Ancient Watcher, Shadow Flame, board cleared.
I think you will see if he can just get another Hex. Oh, and there's a Flame Tongue Totem top deck you were talking about. So we will most likely see the 2 totems and the wolf be traded for the Mountain Golem.
The problem
Mountain
is
Giant, and then he will attack for 6 damage.
the annoying thing is now his wolf is in the middle of his stuff, and if the wolf would be on the left side, he could just run in all totems and his 1/1, for example, to get rid of the enemy. He can also go, Totem, Argent Squire, but his wolf is going to get sacrificed here. We saw it. So wolf goes, healing totem goes too. Now, there's a possibility of Harvest Golem or another totem, and he still has his Defend of Argus in hand. That would be 3 damage, plus a Harvester on the board. That looks rather okay now for him. But as we see in the Theude's hand, yeah, Ancient Watcher, Shadow Flame, and another Ancient Watcher.
Would you go for the Ancient Watcher Shadow Flame combo now?
Well, he could also go for just Twilight Drake, or for example drop his, well, you don't want to drop your Mountain Giant. You kind of get, you absolutely need to kill the totem.
But he has Soulfire on his hand.
Yeah, so you either you coin out Shadow Flame, or you just go for the Soulfire on the totem. Board cleared by the Theude.
Yep. Used the coin Shadow Flame combo, which made sense.
But it looks even better now for StrifeCro. I mean, he gets his Doomhammer, and a Doomhammer overall is, well, 16 damage if you hit with all the hits in the phase. And there's also the possibility of Doomhammer plus Rockbiter, which is super much damage. And now with those 3 2s, that's super amazing. Mortal Coil for the Theude now, useless.
That's extremely right. Yeah, 2 taunts on the field. Yeah, there aren't that many options. I mean, he can go for Ancient Watcher and Defender of Argus.
He needs to look out. I mean, at 5, that's 7 damage on the board. With a Doomhammer without any buffs, that's already 11. With a Doomhammer and a Rockbiter, whoa,
It's over.
that's 17 damage, GG. if he's not taunting up, it could hurt him. But it would be not surprised. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes Twilight Drake, Ancient Watcher to go super safe mode next turn. And
Twilight Drake, Ancient Watcher, really? With 2 Urshock still in the game?
you kind of
I
need
w-
to
I
build
would-
up something.
Yeah, but Twilight Drake, Ancient Watcher could still be just GG.
If you
Like,
go,
there's no taunt.
the
I
main
thi-
problem is if you go double Ancient Watcher now and the Lightning Storm is incoming, you just lose them both instantly. And that would just break your whole defensive line.
I think I would go Ancient Watcher, Defender of Argus. But he decides to go completely other direction with the Mountain Giant.
Molten Giant
Molten Giant.
opposes a big threat, and he can go double Watcher, taunt up still next turn. There's a Doomhammer in his hand, a Yeti. We called it already. He can run everything in if he wants now to kill that Molten Giant. But since one Molten Giant dropped, I would maybe just nuke his face hard. I mean, we talked about it. That's 11 damage. He's down to 5. With a Fire Elemental, 3 damage in the face. With a Lightning Bolt, more damage in his face. And it's turn 8 incoming, so there's no possibility of Jiraxis or Alexstrasza at the moment.
Yeah, but of course there's a possibility of 2 big taunts. But he has the 2 Ashocks for the taunt, so he should be fine. Looks really, really good for StrifeCro with those 2 Urshocks, because the Ood didn't force a Urshock by playing a Twilight Drake yet.
As you say, if he gets a Lightning Bolt and there are 2 taunted up minions, he would just go Urshock, and hit the face twice, plus minions or whatever he drew, Lightning Bolt. At the moment, if 1 minion survives, and there are only 2 taunts upcoming, which is the maximum amount of taunts, StrifeCro would win the game.
I don't see him lose. Like, how?
There could be Watcher, Argus, as we told, and plus Soulfire on a minion and the attack of your Molten Giant.
1 would survive.
And 1 would survive, plus that would be 7 or 6 damage with that Argus or the
Lethal.
Totem. Yeah, it looks like super good for StrifeCro here.
If he doesn't miss a little lethal now, it's over. But I wouldn't expect him to miss it.
I want to see him drawing a second Lightning Storm and just go double Lightning Storm GG. That would be super funny. But the double Earthshock play is the correct thing here to do and just end the game.
I don't think you would risk it to go double Lightning Storm.
But it would be swag and cool and nice. No,
Well, he could actually do it because... No, he couldn't.
he's just going to go double
Risky.
silence as we said
Yeah,
before.
Of course.
And we'll win the game here. So StrifeCro played it really solid. And he didn't even have to use his Urshocks here. And he even get the Fire Elemental we were talking about. He doesn't need it. But 2 damage, plus 4 from the weapon. Doomhammer. We haven't seen a Doomhammer quite a long time in Shamans. But more and more...
Actually, we saw it last week.
We saw last week. That's correct. We